Hi and welcome to my first Q&A answer session. We have been inundated with questions from people from all over Queensland, which is a really good thing, but it certainly shows me that this Labor government is leaving people behind. So let's get into it. My first question is from Frank from Townsville. Now Frank says this: I'm sick of politicians promising to make our streets safer, but never delivering. My daughter's had her house broken into 3 times this year, and my wife and I live like virtual prisoners in our own home. We're scared to leave the doors unlocked, even for a moment. Now Frank said, so what would the LNP do? Well, you know what, Frank? The LNP is well known for being tough on crime. And as what has been seen in Townsville, like with your daughter and you and your wife feeling like prisoners, Labor's soft on crime approach simply isn't working. So we've already promised that we'd do a trial curfew to get these juveniles back in home where they should be, but also we'd bring back breach of bail. So if you're going to offend, you get punished. So Frank, I mean, that's some of the things that we think we should do to get back and be tough on crime, so people like you and your wife can actually feel safer at home again. So now the next question, Genevieve from Mount Gravatt. Now I like this, Genevieve, I hope you're listening. She says, you look like a nice person, but both major parties are really on the nose. How are you going to convince Queenslanders to trust you and the LNP again? Well, you know what, Genevieve, when I first became the leader, I said, what you see with me is what you get, and I really mean it. I'm not a career politician. Most of my team aren't career politicians. So we're out there each and every day fighting for our community, because we believe that your politicians should be honest with their constituents. And if you say you're going to do something, you should actually do it and not change your mind 5 minutes later. So unlike Anastasia Palaszczuk and the Labor government, I would never go to an election saying I'm not going to bring in taxes and then bring in 5 new taxes within a really short period of time. So I think people expect their politicians to be honest. So that's from Genevieve. The next one we have, Gary from Kawana. Now he wants to know the LNP's position on taxes, and he talks about he's heard just recently about the new waste tax, and he asks, will it be imposed on businesses, and he's worried about how it will affect his business. He says he's already paying a big wages bill and rent on his premises, so he's not impressed that his costs will go higher. Well Gary, you raise a few really good issues here. With the new Labor's waste tax or levy, whatever they want to call it, we actually don't know how much it'll be, we don't know how it'll be implemented, but what we do know is each and every householder will have to pay this waste tax or levy, whether it's a business or whether it's a mum and dad. So for example, a small business like a fish and chip shop will have to pay extra to dispose of their oil. You know, and if you're a mum and dad going to get your car serviced, you're going to have to pay extra. And another thing is let's hope it doesn't create more dumping out on our roadways and in our paddocks of things such as old fridges or pieces of furniture, because people are worried about paying this tax or levy. So we don't think it's a good idea, and we certainly don't think Labor should be attacking and putting a tax on each and every Queenslander for the sake of it. The next question I have is from Trent from Coomera. He says, I'm a building contractor and I have to travel on the M1 every day to get either to the Gold Coast or to Brizzy for work. And he says, what will you guys do to sort out the traffic nightmare I face every day? Well, Trent, I had heaps of questions about this, and the LNP will back a second M1. We know that people like yourself, tradies, whether you're a business person, sitting on the M1 is not efficient. There needs to be an alternate route, and whether you're travelling to the Gold Coast or to Brizzy, we don't think that you should sit in gridlock. So we've started a petition, and we're really keen for everyone to get behind the LNP supporting a second M1. Now, the next question I have. Now this is one that is very close to my heart, and I actually had quite a few emails, especially from my own local constituents, and this one is from Tracy from Central Queensland. And quite simply, she talks about the fact that she and her husband run a beef cattle place in Central Queensland, and they had plans to develop their property to increase the carrying capacity. So that means how many more cows they can run. but they think it'll be drastically affected by the state government's new native vegetation laws. And she says, what do we plan to do in relation to these changes? Well, I can tell you right now, Tracy, like I say, issue close to my heart, we are going to fight tooth and nail against these changes, because what Anastasia Palaszczuk and the Labor government don't get is that our farmers and our landholders are the best custodians of our land. They know what they have to do to look after it, because they either want to grow their business or they want to hand it on to their kids. I mean, these are people who love the land. They are the biggest environmentalists and they should be respected by the government. So my team and myself will always respect our landholders, and it is so disappointing that Anastasia Palaszczuk has decided to sell out the bush for Green votes in inner city Brisbane. Next one's from Sean from Townsville. I love this one. He said, "Now, hi Deb, I'm a Labor voter, but last election I voted for a minor party because I reckon they understood regional Queensland better and will stick up for people that are sick of being forgotten." And he asks me, what have we got to offer by way of policies to make things better for people like him? Well, you know what, Sean, I'm from the bush myself. And one of the things that I said when I first became the leader is I'm going to end the divide between the southeast corner and the rest of Queensland. Now, as I've been travelling around, I fully get that people in North Queensland feel like they've been left from this Labor government. Now, after 3 years of Labor, who would wonder? They've had less infrastructure spend, electricity prices going through the roof, and of course now we've got the influx of the native vegetation laws that the Palaszczuk government are planning to bring in. So we need to end the divide. We need to increase the infrastructure spend from the state budget into North and Western Queensland. And no wonder people are hurting. Do you know, in far West Queensland, we've got youth unemployment sitting at almost 60%. Something's got to be done to bring people back into the regions. And that's why the LNP will always invest in our roads, our bridges, and our dams. We need to be spending money on this regional infrastructure to make sure people are supported outside of the southeast corner. And so that's the questions. Thanks everyone very much. And of course, I'll be back again in a fortnight to answer some more.